Dima loves Alchemists and she loves Bonanza. And this guy loves Alchemists and Bonanza. So he's like, oh, we'll set up a day. We'll play Alchemists and Bonanza. I'm like, perfect. Let me know and we'll schedule Scholastic Bean Day.
Scholastic Bean Day. Or you can call it a Bad Games Day. Because
tell me you're still recording.
Because these are two really bad games. Of course I'm still recording.
No. All right. I'm gonna trade you 2 sheep for that wood. Tell me, honey, does that sound good? 'Cause all I really wanna do is take away longest road from you, yeah. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Hello, fellow gregarious geeks and gamers, and welcome to the 37th episode of the Tabletop Sessions Podcast. This is your monthly dose of tabletop gaming stories and shenanigans. My name is Elias, and with me is the never-samey, never unwelcome, legacy-inspiring Ippokratic.
Hello, everybody. This is Ippo.
Kratisnya.
The reason you're listening to this podcast.
Oh, I know that. I think when I did the poll to see, like, you know, what people like, I didn't put a question which is who's your favorite host, because that's kind of rude. But when I did it at the end, I was like, what do you like about the podcast? Like 3 people wrote in Ippo. So I was like, well, all right, well, that made it clear. So, and then Kevin went and like ranked us. He's like, my favorite is Ippo, then you. I'm like, really? Like, it's kind of offensive. Like,
but I like that 3 people like really voted about. I mean, I still remember asking my parents to vote for this and
your parents and Kevin. Because Lena wouldn't do it, right?
Never.
Lena would pick Dima. So
I would be her least favorite.
Oh man! So how have you been? How's your gaming life been recently?
My gaming life, I think I said the same thing in the last episode, but then I thought, I gave a little thought on this, and I was thinking, after 2 months playing Hegemony, I didn't want to play any heavy games. So for a month, I was just playing small, I wouldn't say silly, but, light games. I was I was in denial of playing heavy games.
Didn't you play Zolkin? Pretty sure you played Zolkin.
That's true. So you consider Zolkin a heavy game, right?
No, not heavy, but not light and silly. So
yes, that's true. I mean, Zolkin was really fun. And I wanted to play it once more, and I would like to play it once more and then talk about it maybe in the next episode.
I'm glad our top 5 inspired you to get it back to the table. That was nice.
Yeah.
Because you literally, like 3 days after our episode came out, you sent a picture of yourself and the guys playing Zolkin.
And we enjoyed it so much.
That's nice.
It's really better than playing it in Board Game Arena.
100%.
Where I have played 30 games. I have played a lot. I had Phil, Zach, and Dimitris. We were playing continuously for some time. I guess during the pandemic or early pandemic.
Did you play anything else interesting?
And I also played Hegemony again after the 2 or 3 months. I don't know what's the gap exactly. 2 days ago.
I think it's been like 2 weeks.
I played it 2 days ago. It was excellent. It was amazing. And one reason was that I won by 1 point, which was totally unexpected.
Finally won again. I'm so proud.
Yeah, it's the middle class this time.
Well done.
And also we taught the game to AK. Basically, he taught himself by watching a video. But he was excellent.
Yes, that was very nice of you.
He was excellent as a first-time capitalist. He was amazing, I have to say. Anyway, it was a great game.
AK, you're amazing. Words from Ippokratic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We've been playing a bunch of stuff. I finished the leg of our D&D campaign because our DM is about to have a child. So we kind of like had to get that wrapped up. So we had an in-person D&D session all day. It was great. Got it wrapped up. A lot of stuff involving putting crowbars down people's pants. And yeah, it was a great time.
So DM is like the god in D&D games.
Yes, so now we have the son of the god or the
exactly,
daughter of the god.
So he's coming to Earth. Finally.
Yes. Finally, the chosen one. Yeah, I played Gloomhaven a few times, 3 times, I think. I played Space Alert a couple times, Nemesis Lockdown. I played On Mars. More about all this coming up. Just letting you guys know we've had a few games played in between. And the coolest thing for me is I just finished wrapping up on Tuesday a job. I don't know how many of you knew, but I am a voice actor and audiobook narrator by profession.
You sound like a voice actor.
The reason my voice sounds kind of fucked though is because I had a lot of sessions to finish this up in about a week. And so I work with this company called Graphic Audio, and they do like multicast projects, right? So like they cast multiple narrators, each one to play a different character, and then you voice, and it's a movie in your mind, right? And I was just looking through upcoming projects because I do basically weekly work for them. And I was looking through upcoming projects or recently released projects, and I saw that they had released the first book of the Twilight Imperium book series. And I was like, excuse me, I was not in that one.
There's no way.
So I clicked on it, I checked who the director was. And I was like, all right, Ken, I've worked with Ken like 7 times. I was like, all right. So I emailed Ken. I'm like, listen, I love Twilight Imperium. So I don't know what you had planned or what's going on, but I'd love it if you could include me in some way, even just as a expert consultant.
And I don't think he can find somebody else like in your field.
Probably not.
Closer
no.
to.
So then he comes back and he goes, "Oh, it's great to know. Thanks." And then like a few days later, I get an email. Elias, I'm wondering if you're willing to do an audition for me. I'm like, oh yeah, of course I'm willing to do an audition for you. Then he sends me the main character of the 3rd book in the series, The Veiled Masters, a fucking Hakan, an Emirates of Hakan guy called Tarak. And I auditioned for it and I got the part, and I'm now
amazing.
The first person narrator of The Veiled Masters, the 3rd book in the Twilight Imperium book series by Tim Pratt. And I voiced Tarak, the character, throughout the whole thing. And I just wrapped it up, and I'm officially part of Board Game TI lore.
Congratulations. Like, so I mean, sky's the limit. What comes after that? Maybe the robber in Settlers of Catan?
Retirement. I think retirement. That's the only way to move forward is to retire, because I will never. So I literally emailed him back when he cast me. Basically, he offered it to me. I sent it to all my nerd friends. I was like, I'm going to be part of the TI universe. He sends me the script. He's like, don't share it with anyone, whatever. So then I'm preparing for it because, we get the script to work on it. And I sent him an email just randomly. And I was like, hey, Ken, I just want to let you know. You've made me very cool in some of my friends' circles.
So if this becomes an animation, would you be the first choice?
I mean, I should be, right? Let's be honest.
Man.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wrapped on production. It's now in post-production. So files are already cleaned up. They're now working on music, sound effects, etc. So hopefully it should come soon within the next couple months. I'll be sure to share it once it's out, so
Great
you can
news.
Jump in on it. And it's great space pulp, and if you love Twilight Imperium, it's fun. It's good stuff. It's space conspiracies and empires fighting against each other, and everyone's in there, from the Xja to the Hakan to the Mentak Coalition and the Federation of Sol, and it's awesome.
That's so nice.
I have narrated over 50 books so far, and this is the first one I'm like, other than the first one I did, this is the one that I'm like most hype about. So
Excited.
and it's probably like people are like, why? It's some trashy space pulp, and I'm like, yeah.
No, it's not. No, I mean the
Speaking
lore,
of trashy
the lore is
space
interesting,
pulp,
right?
yeah, I think so. It's a little. It has that game thing where it's like, Hakan are all this way. All 7 billion of them are, very trade oriented, and it kind of like oversimplifies character and individualism, which doesn't make for the best storytelling. But what I do like about these books is they tend to focus a little bit, as much as they can, on the Mentak Coalition, like the space pirates. And I think that's really cool because the Mentak, if you remember, are basically Space Australia. So it's where like all these prisoners from all these various races went.
Space Australia.
And then eventually they had independence. So like Space Australia is cool because then you get all these characters from different species, but they're more Mentak than they are, Hakan or Xja or whatever. It's like they're more Australian than they were originally Dutch or, Italian. I was just thinking of Michelle there, so I just described Michelle, Dutch and Australian and Italian.
And they're making their own wine and their own chocolates and everything. So
exactly, they get their own mishmash culture that's unique and beautiful by itself. And so I like that. First, I was like, Mentak is a weird choice. Like I would go for one of the bigger major players in the game, but I think that was the right call for like individual stories and stuff. So yeah, so check that out. Twilight Imperium, The Veiled Masters. Don't get the regular version. Don't get that's already out. Don't get that. Wait for the damn it, what are they called?
Hold on. Audio version of the
graphic audio version. And I believe they're called, one second, I'm checking this. I got to do shameless self-promotion. Dramatized adaptation.
Oh,
so when you look for it,
yes,
it'll say in parentheses dramatized adaptation. Get that one. Don't get the other one. I'm in the dramatized.
Life hack.
Life hack. I'm going to put it on our TikTok.
So what you've been playing lately?
Well, I've been in a very spacey mood, as you might imagine, with this Twilight Imperium. It's kind of taken over my life for the last month because, reading, recording, preparing. But literally every game I've played has been about space, basically. And me and some friends, we wanted to get together. They wanted to get Nemesis Lockdown to the table, and I wanted them to try Space Alert because I knew they'd like it. So we dubbed that day Soviet Traitor Day because the Space Alert ship, I'm pretty sure it's Soviet, but based on how it runs, Soviet era tech. So we had a great time. And from now on, we're going to be celebrating annually every May Soviet Traitor Day, in which we pick one game with something that feels Soviet and one game that has some sort of traitor.
So wait, the ship is Soviet and there is a traitor among them, which is a Soviet traitor. Yeah, okay.
An American.
Otherwise known as American.
Anyway, so the thing we got to do first was Space Alert, which, as you all should know, and if you don't, check yourself before you wreck yourself, by Vladach Vatil, Czech Games Edition. We got 2 plays in. These were my 7th and 8th plays of the game. I don't think I've won it yet. Spoiler. We lost both the games. So I taught them the game, which, by the way, learning this game is a bear. Like, it's not. There's a tutorial, but if you don't have 2 hours to kill with your friends just to learn it before you play it, it's, So I had to learn it by myself. Teaching it's not super. I mean, it's a bit annoying, but not as horrible as learning it.
Agreed. So
I didn't realize that. I think the tracks are divided as you go up, and so in this game you're basically on a ship. If you don't know, you're on this ship. Basically they send you out on this called the Sitting Duck class ship, and they're sending you to this area, and you just have to survive for 10 minutes, and the ship automates and jumps by itself. But so many people are dying going to this area that they don't have enough people to train them, so they just really simplified operations of the ship where you just have to push a couple buttons to keep things going. And you're just walking around the ship doing things while horrible things are happening to you. And you have to survive for 10 minutes. And then if you survive, you score.
And it's a co-op.
So, yeah, it's a co-op, real time. And basically you got 10 minutes to actually plan everything. And then you actually see what happened after you've programmed all your actions. And your main actions are basically moving or pressing a button in the sector you're in. And there's 3 buttons in every sector, and each button does something different. Shoots a gun, powers a shield, adds more energy to your generator, moves the mouse so the screensaver doesn't turn on, stuff.
That's the best. That's the best.
I like in the rulebook, they say you have to move the mouse because they could turn off the screensaver, but that's where their corporate sponsors image shows, and they can't afford to do this without corporate sponsorship. So, and a little hidden gem, their sponsor is Corporation Incorporated, which is the company that you're building ships for in Galaxy Trucker, which is another Vlad.
Oh my God. Nice.
Anyway, so
nice
I don't think I realized that the track, basically as you go next track on the CD. Oh yes, there's a CD which plays like all the events that are happening. I don't think I realized it got more difficult as you went. So I asked them, pick a track number. And the guy was like 6. So I put on 6 out of 8.
Oh my God.
And it was so difficult, man. We barely survived. We didn't survive. I'm sorry. But we barely survived in real life.
No,
we played it. And, and it went terribly. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go for track 2 next time. So we went for track 2. And then we were like, oh, this is so easy. There's no alerts coming in. And we still lost. So what I want to tell you is a couple of stories. Don't get cocky, right? Because that second game, we were playing level 2. We did nothing for the last 2 minutes because we were like, oh, we've resolved this. Everything is done. We didn't even check the cards that we played. And then it turned out that we did do everything correctly, except Dima got her directions mixed up. She was moving in the wrong direction than where she expected to be moving, which screwed up the entire game for everybody. So Dima, who was supposed to be handling the ship's energy generators so that we could power the guns and the shields and everything, was powering the wrong sectors the entire game. And so basically, anytime we wanted to run a gun or a shield, we couldn't because there was no energy. So we fell apart and we lost. So don't get cocky. Check your cards if you have extra time. And it's just such a fun time. The guys loved it. Basically, Dimas told them, now every time they come, we're going to play a quick game of Space Alert before we start everything. And it's just great. The first game I had moved, left and then down in the first, time section. And then they were like, oh, no more first time section. So I pulled my cards for the second period, and you can't mess with the ones you placed already. And I realized, oh, I came all the way here and I don't have the button I need. So then I spent the next 2 actions going back up and to the right. So I spent 4 actions going left and down and then up and then right.
Mine is an excellent game. It's such an ingenious idea.
Yeah, Matt went and got the robot guys. What are they called? Like the bots that protect your interior of your ship. Oh. And he was walking around with them, and he's supposed to be taking care of the interior threats, right? And except he forgot to go down, and so he was just up on the upper level, and the interior threats are in the bottom level, and he was just firing like every turn. He was just like just shooting nothing the entire
How many players did you play?
Four. It was an excellent time.
Did you use a CD player?
Yeah, I have a CD player, which is
Man.
weird. But,
I think the files are in BGG. The
not
MP3
just on Czech Games Edition's website, you can just play the files directly.
download them, yeah.
And actually, I put a link on my phone and in my notes app to quickly access that. I have like a little board game helpful things note, and basically just for like, because we were thinking about playing it at their house, and I was like, yeah, there's no way they have a CD player. So like, but they came over, and luckily I happen to have a CD player, so we did that, and it was a great time. I highly recommend Space Alert. We've done so many times, but this just reiterated it, and this is not really a review. You don't need a review of Space Alert. We've put it in so many top 5, top 3 lists. You can't not know that we like it. We like it, but it's silly, fun, and it's a great way to get a day of gaming started, because it takes you from just like, oh yeah, how do you play this game, to like, oh my God, Dima, you're going in the wrong direction,
It's an old game. I mean, it's more than 10 years old, right? I mean,
That's right.
I mean, it has a
It's
CD.
It's from 2008. Yeah.
And it's strange that we don't see any new version of this concept.
Very true. But I think Vlad is resting on his laurels now. He's got all that Codenames money,
Yeah, but I mean, not from Vlad. I mean, from other designers. You can get this, programming mechanism, which is like, okay, it's in many games, and you just need a co-op game with, with audio. Maybe the audio is the strange thing about it.
I don't think so, because nowadays you can just make an app, right? An app companion.
Yeah.
So.
And it's real time. So real time is always funny. Yeah?
A lot of people don't like this game. And I think the reason is they got to go through that 2-hour, learning session.
Yeah.
And it's a lot for a game. I mean, the gameplay time is 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's
and then you resolve what happened, which takes maybe 20 minutes, right? So it's all half an hour. So 2 hours to learn it, and it's not like a campaign. So it's not like you're learning it with your friends. And
I was playing it as a campaign. I mean, one scenario after the other, because
it's a scenario game,
as you
not
say,
a campaign.
They get harder.
Yeah. All in all, I love Space Alert. I know you love Space Alert. Dima's thrilled that I traded for it. I know you wanted to send us your copy, which makes you the sweetest person in the world, but good news, you can keep your copy, because I have my own copy.
I can keep it in the basement in Greece.
Find better friends. If your friends don't like it, find better friends.
I want to say it's funny you said it's a scenario game and not a campaign game. And we will talk about it in the today's top 5.
Oh my God.
Okay, that was, as you said, excellent and expected, as we have many times praised Space Alert. I played Fantasy Realms 1 week ago. Fantasy Realms is a card game from 2017. You have it's a deck of cards. Everybody gets 7 cards. You're trying to get the most points in the end of the game. You draw from the deck in your turn, or you get one from the discarded cards that you have in front of you, and then you discard a card face up. The game ends when the 10th card is discarded. So it's a really quick game. It takes 10 to 20 minutes. The funny thing is that you are getting all these different, leaders and artifacts and things that you need to combine, and you're getting more points depending on the combination you are trying to accomplish. And when I played this game, I have played this, I think, so far 7 or 8, 9 times, something like that. And I was always feeling that it depends a lot on luck. I mean, the cards dealt to you make it a huge difference. So in the last game we played, I get a very nice 7 cards in the beginning. So at the end of the game, what you're doing in this game is you add the base strength, the number on the card, you apply any bonuses that the card describes, and any penalties. There are also penalties. So usually the high cards have more penalties in order to balance with the smaller value cards. So in my game, I begin with 3 high cards and 1 card that its value is 0, but removes all penalties. So I have, these are the perfect 4 cards combination, and I have it already in my hand. I also have the sword that, I don't remember, it's the sword of something that becomes a 50 points, which is like huge, if combined with the belt of something and a leader. So in the first turn of the first round, Vicky discards the belt of whatever. So I take it immediately from the from the table, and for the rest of the game I only need 1 more leader to have the perfect combination. So the other guys, they're just playing, they're trying to do their best. I'm just drawing to get a leader because nobody's discarding a leader. At some point in the last round, somebody discards a leader. I get him. I get another 50 points from the leader, another 50 points from the belt, another 50 points from the whatever sword was that. And I end up with 207 points, which is a record for this game. Nobody has done this before. And I was thinking, I mean, I did nothing. It was at the same time amazing, but in the whole game I was just drawing to find the leader. I couldn't find the leader, and it happened to have somebody to discard the leader in the last round. So it's a nice game. I mean, I like the idea behind it, that everybody can combine different things, and each card has a penalty and each card has a different bonus, different combinations can happen, but it's based too much, I feel, to the hand deal to you in the beginning. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, the weight of the game in BGG is 1.8 out of 5, and I had fun playing it.
It doesn't sound like you did.
I had fun watching the other people being destroyed by my 207 points, I guess, not by playing it.
I was going to say, it sounds like you wanted to tell that story to tell us how much you won the game.
Yes, exactly. This is what I wanted to do. Because otherwise, I wouldn't buy this game or suggest somebody to buy it, but it's a nice filler. I mean, if you have like 10-20 minutes and as a filler, I can see me playing it again.
What's interesting is it's designed by, the only other like famous game the designer has done is Betrayal at House on the Hill. He was one of the co-designers on that one.
Which is this is the Polish game?
No. It's Betrayal at House on the Hill. AK has it. Don't play it. You'll hate it. But basically, you're going into this. You're playing these different scenarios. One of you at some point is going to get switched over to be possessed or haunted or whatever, and then become villain essentially and turn on everybody else. And every scenario you play is different. It's a very cool concept. It's just not a very good game. Wait, I don't want to. Some people adore this game, and again, I'm trying to be better. So I'm not going to make objective statements, but personally, I felt like that game is not a good
And okay, let's say it's not okay. I'm not sure if our listeners are aligned to our views, or
definitely not.
Because I was thinking maybe you're listening to something to hear something from people that they have some similar tastes to you, or are you listening to people that you just want to hear their opinion?
I suppose it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for a podcast or content to decide what to purchase, then you would look for people that have similar opinions to you. But I already purchased too much. So the last thing I need is content influencing me. So I literally just pick my content based on if I like their characters. Like if I like listening to them joke around or whatever, I'll listen to it. It's kind of like spending time. So if I'm cooking and I'm alone or whatever, I'll put on a podcast, feels like friends are around. Or
Okay, but let's put it this way. If our listeners, let's say you have listeners in your living room, so they cannot speak to you, but they can listen to you. So you would say to them, yeah, don't buy this. Don't buy this game. It's not good.
No, I wouldn't.
No?
No, because it depends who's next. So like I have a group that prefers more thematic games. I would recommend Betrayal at House on the Hill for them, because for them the theme is the most important thing and it carries it. And if you like that theme, if you like horror themes like say AK does, it's one of the best games out there, right? Because every time you play, you don't know what the unique there's so many possible things that could happen in that game
You're right.
that cause, I can't remember what it's called. I played so long ago, The Haunting or whatever, that you don't know what's going to happen. So you don't know who's going to turn. You don't know yourself that you're going to betray everybody when you start that game.
Like I didn't like Mansions of Madness, but it's like one of the best games of this genre.
But even Mansions is compared to Betrayal at House on the Hill, Mansions is a masterclass in design. You know what I mean? Like Betrayal at House on the Hill is as Ameritrash as they come. You know, so you do have to consider. But for me, no, like I'm not playing that game.
All right then.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Fantasy Realms. Apparently, that's what we talked about.
It's Fantasy Realms.
So weirdly and coincidentally, we both sort of played two versions of the same game in the last month without planning it or anything.
Two versions? I thought we played the same game.
No, we did not.
Oh.
There are games that are so far outside our usual choice or game fairs, whatever, that it had to be fate and destiny that aligned us together to both have friends who made us play this game the last month, which I'm sure is what happened to you. I haven't spoken to you about it, but I'm pretty sure you didn't say, I want to go play Nemesis. So
you're wrong.
You played Nemesis. I'm 100% right.
You are wrong. Actually,
you said you wanted to play Nemesis?
Yes. Not only that, I asked if somebody has Nemesis, or otherwise I was willing to buy it. And Safe told me, "Oh, I have Nemesis. I can bring it." And I said, "Please bring it." Because it's one of the games in BGG Top 100 that I have not played, and I was willing to give it a shot because it's a concept that I like. It's a co-op game with the one traitor, like Battlestar Galactica, I was thinking.
Not necessarily a traitor.
Yeah, but this is what I was getting from.
So we didn't play Nemesis. We played Nemesis Lockdown, which is the new version. But as far as I can tell, the majority of mechanisms are the same. The majority of gameplay is the same. There are some differences, which is something we can highlight if we care enough to talk about the design of the game. But I wanted to make this more of a conversation, like not me or you, since we both played the game. The basic idea of the game is you're in some sort of location, a spaceship, I believe, for Nemesis, and on Nemesis Lockdown, a scientific facility on Mars, I think. And there's some sort of alien breach or alien attack in that facility. You play one of the characters. You can be, the janitor, the soldier, the hacker, whatever. And you're basically just trying to, you have personalized goals, and you have to achieve those goals and escape. Now, this is an interesting thing. So I wanted to talk to you because I don't know much about the base game of Nemesis, but how could you win in your game of Nemesis? What was like the overall win condition of your game?
So you're getting two objectives in the beginning of the game.
Yes.
And when you have when the team has the first encounter with an alien, Then you choose one of the two.
Yes, that's the same.
And you discard the other. And the options usually are I will be the only survivor, or this player needs to die.
Yeah. So my question is that the only thing you need to do to win the game of Nemesis?
I believe yes.
Okay, so this is one of the coolest things about Nemesis Lockdown that I love. You have the exact same thing. You get 2 missions, and you got to pick one of them when the first encounter with an alien happens. Now, there is also something called the contingency plan. So the company that has created this facility, they have some sort of contingency plan in play. So they have decided either that if an alien attacks, they're either going to rescue survivors, blow up the place, only close the gates, open the gates to bring survivors, only bring people that have sent a signal so that they know that they're not contaminated, only bring people that are in these cargo pods. Everybody else, the whole thing is getting blown up, but you don't know what it is. So the contingency plan is secret on the board. It's a token. And all of you know one thing that it's not. So you all get one contingency plan. So you have to deduce over time what the contingency plan of the company is. So not only do you have to survive your mission or do your mission, whatever the card you picked is, be the only survivor, escape with a friend, whatever it is, you also have to make sure you're in the right place to get rescued.
All the things you said are different objectives in Nemesis. I mean, one can have the objective to send the ship to Mars instead of going to Earth. So he should go to the pilot room and change the coordinates. The other guy might have an objective to send a signal to Earth. The other guy might have the objective to blow up the ship.
Yeah.
So
they seem to have combined the two. So you have to do whatever your mission is, which could be something like that, like collect 7 alien samples or something like that, and also be in the right place, because you could end up succeeding, but then you go to try to escape with the rover and they never pick you up. So it's very cool. That was one of my favorite concepts in the game, was this contingency deduction thing. I thought it was super cool.
But you can deduct that only by with conversation, with discussion with the other players.
No. You can get more tokens to rule out things.
Oh.
And you can do things where you can see other people's tokens. So basically, over time, your interactions with people can cause you to at least narrow it down enough that you know, okay, I have a good chance.
So the other people have tokens.
Take the rover, I'll be. Yes, you all have a token that rules something out, and the one token that's the contingency is face down on the board. So.
Yeah. Okay, so the token is irrelevant to your goal.
Yeah. But it tells you what it's not, what the contingency is not. So you got to basically there's like 5 or 6 contingencies, and you have to figure out what it is. But so you could accomplish your goal and just kind of pray that the way that you escape is the right way to escape, which I love, which is very interesting because in our game, nobody won. Everyone died.
In our game, also nobody won. But I was the only one that I survived.
Yeah. Actually, I want to tell you the cool stories of how they ended, but I'll tell you guys at the end. I want to go over a little more stuff that I like. I like the noise thing. I'm sure that's also in Nemesis.
Yes.
Where if you go through an area, you make noise, and if you make enough noise, it attracts an alien, basically. And also, different sections of the facility would have power or not have power, and that would change over time. And that was very interesting as well. Trying to manipulate, why would you ever want to go deeper into the facility when the escape route is towards the surface, but maybe there's no power where you're at, but overall, there are several things in the game. Basically, here's my overall thoughts on this game. great concepts, stupid implementation. Like, I think this game could have gone through several rounds of production, of development before it came out. It just felt like they had these awesome ideas and just kind of said, that's good enough that we have a cool idea, rather than trying to make it as smooth. And so an example of that, and to me, I don't know if this is the same in Nemesis, but this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Variable alien health, right? So when you attack an alien, you draw a card to show you what the life of that alien is. Maybe that life is 4, and you've done 2 damage to the guy. All right, you put your 2 damage, the alien's life is 4. The next time you attack that same alien, who hasn't gone anywhere, he's in the room with you, you draw another card to see what his life is now.
Yeah, everything you said so far is exactly the same in Nemesis.
So his life could now be 6 or 2, yes. And he's already dead. That is unnecessary. I'm okay with variable, like you draw a card to see what their life is, but then just stick to that. But there's no reason.
Yeah, but it gives you a feeling of, a horror film where you are stabbing the murderer, but you don't know if the next stab will be enough to kill him. Yeah,
that's what I read online as well, and it sounds like people trying to make excuses for the game they like. That's what it sounds like to me.
I mean, it makes it unpredictable.
No.
So they preferred theme over
and that's okay.
Strategy.
That's okay, but I don't see even the thematic. Like, even if you're killing somebody, yeah, but like, that if your knife damage is hurting them or not, right? Like in this case, I could have done 2 damage, pulled a 4. Next time I attack it, I don't get any hits, but I pull that the life is 2. So what, they just roll over and die? Like, it doesn't.
It's strange.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, even objective. And the problem is, it's too many variables, because it's not like your damage is predictable. It's dice based, right? So you're rolling dice damage, and then you hit, but you don't know if your hits are gonna kill the thing. Like, it's too much. It's too much randomness. It's 2 steps of variability that don't need to exist.
It's interesting what you said, that the game can take more development, because the quantity of rules in this game is amazing. There are so many rules for a co-op game.
It's one of the points I wrote, actually. This game desperately needs a player aid, right? Because every room has a unique action.
Yes.
Every phase needs a description, but you don't have any of that. So every time we were like, what does this room do again? And then Chris would have to pull out a rule book and then find what that room does.
That's what we were doing also.
Yeah.
And
no good.
Safe, who's the owner of the game, we went there and he said, okay, basically this happens in this game. We're going to start play, and I'll explain the rules as we play. And
that's almost what happened with us.
And I was thinking, I mean, this is not the way to play a game, because we don't know where to go, what to do. And
you want it thematic, right? That's pretty thematic.
Yeah, after 1 hour, I turn to Save and I say, you were right. There's no point of explaining every single room and what, I mean.
No, there's
no. You just need to explain the basics, and then as you explore, and then for the next time, the game a little bit more. One of the things
and Chris, the owner, sorry, he also wanted to, because I was writing my notes, because I died pretty early. So I was writing my notes about what I thought about the game. And Chris wanted me to mention, it is a bit of a beast of a rule book. So like, it's not a simple rule book to get through. So
it's so many rules. It's not like it's complicated, but there are so many rules.
Yeah. So no, it's not complicated at all. Yeah.
One thing that I would like to add in a mechanism that I liked is that actually it's not really an innovative mechanism or something, but it's really thematic. The little wounds that you accumulate every time the monster beats you, you are literally bleeding to death drop by drop. This is what I'm feeling. And when you from the beginning that if you get 3 serious what do they call them? Not bites, 3 serious injuries.
Serious injuries, yeah.
Yeah, if you get the 3 serious injuries, then you're dead. And
Yeah, same.
and you are feeling, literally drop by drop your blood on the floor of the spaceship. And like 2 rounds before the end of the game, everybody was okay. And in the last round, everybody died.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point to bring up, which is another of my big negatives, but also kind of required for this kind of game. There is player elimination. You could die very early into the game, which I did. After I died, the game went on for another 2.5 or 3 hours. Like,
oh, yeah, that's so early.
I died super well. It was a combination of being a little suicidal. I wasn't the biggest fan of the game. So I was kind of like, I'm just going to stay and fight the guy. And everyone's like, no, run away. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stay and fight the guy.
I'm a big guy. I can do this.
I kind of wanted it to be over. So I'm not blaming the game for my early death, but there is player elimination early in the game. So on that topic, the game ends when everyone either escapes or dies. So potentially, and this happened in our game, you can end up with just one person playing. So at the end of the game, only one person was either hadn't died or escaped.
Really?
And so we were all just sitting around the table and Chris was playing the game by himself.
That's really strange. No.
There's 2 parts to that. One, that's weird, right? And 2, it's still kind of fun to watch though. Like, it's so thematic that you're watching it and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's kind of like watching a movie, right? So at least there's that. The thematic makes up.
But I think if you die first, then you are becoming an alien and you are playing for the aliens or something like that.
So there's a mini expansion in the game that you can use. And that mini expansion is to put that in where you become an alien and then you're, but it's not core rules. It's like a additional way to add to the game. And Chris wanted to actually play with a rule where you could take the remains, right, the carcass, and take them to the biolab or whatever, and you could bring them back to life. They can't win the game anymore, but keep playing. And I was like, no. Do not bring me back to life. I do not want to keep playing this game. And that kind of like narrows down exactly where I feel about this game. It's got incredible theme, but they sacrifice good game decisions for the theme. And so that can tell you where you fall, right? Like if you are just about the theme and making sure it's as cool as possible, it's there.
Yeah.
But if you want to also have a good time while enjoying the theme as a game, make fun decisions and so on, it's not, right? And in that way, it just feels like a typical Kickstarter where it uses theme and component quality and throws in more and more and more stuff to make up for a design that's not really very clever. Except for the contingencies. I like the contingencies part.
That was an excellent summary. Let me tell you what happened in our game, where my objective was what was it? Survive alone, or the second card, escape to Earth with at least one more player.
That was mine.
Really?
Mine was called Best Buddies Forever or something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was the name.
Escape to Earth with a friend.
Yeah. So
not to Earth, escape the facility.
So obviously, I discarded the Survive Alone card and I kept this Escape to Earth with somebody else. One round before the end of the game, everyone was thinking he's gonna make it. In the last round, all 4 people die except me. I escape to Earth and I don't win. Alone, and I don't win because I didn't pick the.
That's amazing.
The right. I mean, if I had picked the other objective, I would have won.
I think both me and you did the same thing, which is we overestimated the chances of survival because I also picked escape with a friend.
Yeah, and the other funny thing was that other people also had this objective to survive alone. Or they had this objective to survive, and any specific other players should not survive. So
Yes.
they were trying to make the other player die because we were playing the game for the first time. We didn't realize that you don't need to do anything. Everybody's gonna
No,
die.
they'll die.
You don't need actually to do. You just wait and see other people dying. So what I liked
And that's
about my objective and what I liked what the objective did to me to in order to experience the game and have fun is that I was helping other people during the game. I actually helped another person with his objective. He wanted to collect some samples. So I gave him a sample so he could come with me. I was waiting for him. He came, but he couldn't make it. So I was seeing him from the room next to him dying, and I couldn't do anything to help. So I had just hit.
yeah,
I mean, so it built a story in the end.
yeah.
I need.
No, that's really cool. And actually, we had similar things like so. So my death kind of sucked because I was like kind of over the game, but I was basically like, my thing is to escape with a friend. I'm going to gamble that I can take the rover out of here. So I just stayed at the entrance of the facility, and I was like, whenever they accomplished their thing, I was the hacker too, so I could do a bunch of stuff on the computer. So I didn't need to go so far. So I was like, I'm just going to stay here. And then when someone comes to escape, we're going to escape together. And that was a terrible idea because we lost power in that area. And I basically got murdered by an alien very early on, although it was kind of self-inflicted. But we had some cool story. So the first one to get all his stuff done, Matt, he had everything he needed, right? He had sent the signal. He had got all, he was at the level that he needed to be scientifically. And then he's just walking in. Sorry, he hadn't sent the signal yet. The last thing he needs to do is send the signal. So he just walks into the signal room. All he's got to do is send the signal and then escape. And he makes some noise. And then we draw out of the bag to see what kind of alien shows up. And it's the queen. And the queen is this monstrous creature whose life you have to draw 2 cards to determine their life, and like whacks you really hard, basically. And
for
does some
and for the listeners, the queen's mini is like 3 times taller than every other mini in the game.
It's not a mini, yeah. It's a maxi. But the idea is, she hits him. He gets a serious wound. So he decides he has this way that he can get out of the encounter without taking another, attack. So he basically escapes. And then we happen to draw, like, what do the aliens do that turn? And it was like, the queen follows you.
Oh my
basically is what happened.
no.
So the queen followed him into the next room. The point is, he was brutally murdered towards the end of the game when he had basically accomplished his mission. And that was hilarious. But my favorite thing in the whole game was the last 2 left were Dima and Chris, right? And Chris has done his mission. He just needs to get out. They're not 100% sure how to get out, but they decide they're going to take the rover and leave through the gates. Dima has done most of her mission, but the last part of her mission she can't do because that place is infested with aliens. So she's like, okay, here's my choices here. I could try to do this, or I can go take the rover and leave without having done my mission and leave Chris in the facility to die.
Why?
So Dima goes to the, because if she's not winning, nobody is. That's how Dima is.
Oh my
So she
God.
goes to the facility to take the rover. And this is the best part of all this. Chris reaches the room that Dima is in and taking the rover from. And Dima just drives off with the rover waving in the sky.
Dima is a villain.
Stuck in, and drives off knowing that the company is going to kill her, basically, because she hasn't accomplished her goal. So Dima escapes without accomplishing her goal. And she leaves Chris, who has accomplished his goal, and has no way to escape the facility. And we were all just like, oh my God, Dima. Like, Dima would rather see the world burn than have anyone else beat her at a game.
Oh my! I was feeling the opposite. I was feeling that if I couldn't accomplish my mission, I would help at least, well, not at least, any other player, if I had the chance for him to accomplish the mission and survive. I was thinking it more as a co-op rather than a competitive game.
Yeah, well, you sound like you're a nice person.
Unlike your wife.
I don't think anyone in our group had that.
Anyway,
so yes, I've already kind of given you my final thoughts on it, which is, it could have used some development. It's kind of uses theme and components as a way to make up for a lack of development and design. But there are great stories that come out of it. And even though I died, I kind of enjoyed sometimes watching the rest of the game play out. I would leave the table and come back, but when I would come back, I had a good enough time that it wasn't the worst thing in the world. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do, go for it. For me, it's not on my play again list, but I know Dima would like to. She would like to play again. She said she would. And she's not a thematic gamer, so she likes Euros and heavy games more than anything, but she liked it enough. So take that for what you will. We're not trying to tell you like buy it or don't buy it, but we are trying to tell you might like this, but if this is something you're looking for, you might not find it in this game. So, what are your final thoughts on it?
So Nemesis really reminded me of Battlestar Galactica. So it was, as you said, a great story, a great experience. It's funny that I agree. It's not my play it again list, but I would advise everybody to play it at least once. So I don't see a lot of replayability, but at the same time, I think it's excellent experience. Like just for once.
Yeah. And like when I lost, I was feeling super negative. But then when I went to post the picture on Instagram, follow us on Instagram at Tabletop Sessions, I was putting my thoughts down and I realized they were pretty positive, right? Like I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not really a well-designed game, but I had fun. Exactly. And that's
and you died like 2.5 hours before the end of the game. That's unbelievable.
It was a good time. So that's Nemesis and Nemesis Lockdown. Continuing with the idea of space, because, my mind was in space because of the Twilight Imperium thing. I was meeting with my other group, the one that plays heavier games, and one of them had recently bought On Mars by Vital Lacerda. So I was just like, hey, I kind of feel like playing space games. So this could have been the all space episode, by the way, if you didn't ruin it with fantasy realms, just by the way.
Yeah.
I hope you feel terrible about that.
Well, I didn't know about it. I could have talked about Shipwreck Arcana. This is
like not in space.
Isn't it? It's a spaceship.
It's a ship.
It's a space shipwreck. No.
It's like a water ship. It's like a ship. Anyway, so On Mars is a game from Vital Lacerda by Eagle Griffin Games, with the graphic design and art by Ian O'Toole. I think it came out in 2020. And I've only ever played one other Vital Lacerda game, which is Kanban. And so from a complexity level, they rated this more complex than Kanban on BGG. And that's completely, I think, not true. Like, I just think maybe On Mars got more popular. So more people who don't know how heavy Vital Lacerda games are bought it. And they were like, wow, this is super heavy. But from having learnt Kanban and learnt On Mars follows a much more simple to understand rhythm. And it's more about you take certain kinds of actions to build certain kinds of buildings, upgrade those buildings, build complexes, and then based on what you build, you score points in different ways. Kanban, whilst maybe there's less stuff happening, it's much harder to wrap your head around. I feel, again, this is all subjective, because it's hard to know where to start with Kanban. Like everything feeds into something else. There's no obvious starting point. Whereas you can come up with obvious starting points on Mars, build a building or get a blueprint or hire a scientist, With Kanban, it's like, I have no idea where to start understanding this game from, because everything needs you to understand something else to explain it. So in terms of complexity, I do feel that Kanban is more complex, or it was for me. My brain had a hard time with it. So even though it says It's more complex on BGG. If that has been turning you away, don't let it. I don't think it's as complex as Kanban, and you can pretty much get your head around it in about 40 minutes or so, of if you watch a video or something. Overall, the idea of the game is you're colonizing Mars. So you're building buildings, you're getting blueprints, scientists, you're developing the buildings to be more advanced buildings. You're building complexes, which is multiple of the same buildings next to each other. This whole time, you're basically moving by shuttle between the colony on Mars and like the space station in orbit. And based on where you are, you can do different actions. So in the space station, you can do more science stuff. When you come on to Mars, you can do more construction stuff. And then based on what you do, you develop the level of the colony. And as the level of the colony develops, the game progresses, like phases progress. It had a lot of nice, interesting decisions to make. And it's a very good, solid Euro, a very good Euro. But not to bury the lead, it's not a game that stayed with me. Like, I didn't think about it.
What is the goal of the game?
To get the most points.
So
But overall, you're
sorry I
developing
asked.
Mars. You're developing Mars, basically.
Is there an interaction?
There is interaction because you can build buildings to connect to other buildings that other people have. There's actually quite a bit of interaction. Which is actually the next point I wanted to say. It is interactive. You need other people to build buildings, but also to build complexes of certain sizes, you have to have the technology to build that size. But you don't have to have it yourself. Somebody else can have that technology. And they get a benefit from you using that technology. But if somebody develops water building technology to 4, you can develop a level 4 size water complex by just using their tech without having to do it. So if they know you're waiting to do that, they can intentionally withhold development of that technology so that you're not able to build that large water complex that you've been building up towards. So there is quite a bit of interactivity.
Isn't there a tech tree?
It's sort of a tech tree. You get tech that you put on your board, and you have levels to it. So you can develop how the level of that technology over time. So overall, the game is not something that I thought about much afterwards, right? Like, it didn't stick with me. But the one thing that did comes on that interactivity topic. But it's also something that turned out we played wrongly. So I don't know what that says about it. But basically, Chang was he got that water tech, and he intentionally kept it at level 1, and he withheld it. And the entire game, we were trying to develop 2-level complexes, and we can't because you need it. We thought you needed it to be at level 2 to develop a 2-level complex, and he was withholding it at level 1 throughout the entire game, which stopped the development of the colony as a whole, which meant that new tech stuff wasn't coming out for us to make up for what he did. So he was holding water development hostage.
Why didn't anybody else develop the technology?
Well, there was only one of each tech, right? But when the colony level goes to the next level, which we needed that water to be developed for it to do that, you get new tech. And that can include, and does include, another water technology. So he held the whole game hostage, but it turns out that you only need the level to be equal to how many buildings you're connecting to. So to do a level 2, you only needed to be at level 1, which it was. But regardless of that, we thought it was hilarious. It was like a mob mentality approach to the colonization of Mars. And we had a lot of fun joking about how Nestle made it to Mars trying to own all the water. So but afterwards, it turned out it was wrong. So he couldn't hold the game hostage. The other guy I was playing with, Alistair, that's when he got kind of pulled out of the game and didn't enjoy it. When he felt that Cheng was holding the game hostage and reducing the number of possible actions we could do and the new things that came out. And it turns out he was right. That's not how the game is designed. So I can't criticize that. But I loved that about it. I loved that Cheng could hold the game hostage. So I kind of liked the things that wasn't meant to be part of the game. But Alistair felt the way the designer meant for you to feel. So
So the
different
one thing you
perspectives.
liked in the game was not in the game.
I didn't say it was the one thing I liked. It was the thing I liked the most in the game. So another thing is Ian O'Toole did a great job with like the layout and the design. For such a complex game, I feel like he did a great job. And actually, it made me want to try the new version of Kanban EV, which is Ian O'Toole graphic design, because I feel like that could make
I
it
wanna
clearer. I
do
feel like
that,
his graphic
yeah.
design does a very good job. So the point, and the thing about the game is also it's kind of point salad-y in the sense that everything kind of gives you points at the end of the game, but not sometimes what you think would give you points, right? So the first big batch of points I got was from building a building of a certain kind. And I was like, okay, I'll just build more buildings. But you only get points for the first building of that kind that's built in the game. So then I built it again. And I was like, oh, right, I don't get anything from this. So again, it has that Kanban thing where you're not sure where your points are coming from. This is not a criticism. I just want to point it out. I actually think it's very interesting that it's not obvious. So even though you basically get points from everything, sometimes it's not the thing you would think you would get points from. So keep that in mind. And because of that, I imagine the game is better with multiple plays. I've only played it once, so I would play it again, but I'm not going to be the one asking to play it, right? I think Vital Lacerda makes very,
Ooh.
very good games, excellently designed games, but my brain, the way it's wired, doesn't work with those games. So whilst I'm happy to play them, I never crave playing them. And I think that's important. The same thing happened with Madeira, which is not a Vital Lacerda game, but it kind of feels like a Vital Lacerda game. Uh, it has that thing where you guys loved it, but I never really wanted to get it to the table. So if I had another option, I took it. But if you guys wanted to, and we were only playing one game that night, I would, and I'd probably have a good time. And that's how I feel about Madeira, which isn't Vital, but I felt that way about Kanban, and I feel that way about On Mars. So it isn't the most exciting review in the world.
It's funny you're saying that because I mean I remember you liked Trajan, right? Which is a point salad.
Yes.
And I didn't like it, and I don't like this guy's games in general. What's his name? The
Stefan Feld.
Stefan Feld games. Most of them are like point salads. I don't
Yes.
like also Vital Lacerda games except Kanban. And I liked Madeira for some reason that I don't know.
Madeira isn't him. Madeira is the guys who did Panamax, but
but it's still like it's not thematic, and it has so many rules, and it's a point salad.
Yeah.
So what to like in this game? I don't know why I liked it.
Well, it wasn't the point salad thing that made me not like it. Like I didn't have a problem with the point salad thing. And again, I couldn't tell you I didn't like the game. Like I did, but I wasn't excited about it. Like I was excited going into it, and then right after it, I didn't think about it at all, and I haven't thought about it since. Right? And
Yeah, so that's important.
yeah, for me, it's the most important. It's how I know if a game was good.
Yeah.
So like Nemesis, in the game, I could criticize many things, but afterward, I thought about it for like a day or two, and so that boosted it. With this game, I can't criticize very much in the game. It's a very well designed game.
Exactly.
But I didn't think about it at all, so that lowered it
Yeah.
a bit in my estimation.
Exactly.
And
That's what I was going to say. That your reviews are making everybody excited to try Nemesis and not excited to try On Mars, even if it's probably the better
Exactly.
game.
And it is the better game. And that's the funny thing about all this is it's more interesting decisions by far in On Mars. It's one of those that gets in your head and you're like, oh my God, what should I do? What's the best action? What can I do? And from what I can do, what's the best thing? And it gives you some flexibility. You're never fully trapped, If an action is taken up, you can use it. It'll just cost you more, stuff like that. Very good, very clever. And deciding that you want to use the actions on one side of the board, the colony side, and then being like, okay, now I need to go work on science, so I need to go into orbit. Well, that means I can't do any colony actions like building and stuff for a while until I come back down with the shuttle. So it's very cool, very interesting. If you like Vital Lacerda games, it's probably one you would like. I liked it enough that if Cheng is like, hey, you guys want to come over and play On Mars? I'd say yeah. But if Cheng was like, what do you guys want to play? I wouldn't say On Mars. I hope that tells you where my head is at with the game.
Okay, I have a question. If he says you can come by, but you're not allowed to eat anything, so there's no pizza this night, would you go for on Mars?
No, I wouldn't go to anyone if we were not allowed to have snacks. Like, what are you talking about?
I mean, there are games that you would go even without pizza, right?
No, let me make it very clear. The reason I like Dungeons and Dragons and the reason I like board games instead of video games is because I get to hang out with people and drink and have snacks and talk. That's the entire reason I like board games. Like, if you take that away, I don't want to play board games.
I took away the pizza, not everything. Anyway.
So, I mean, if we could still have snacks and drinks, yeah, I'd go.
Okay. So about the weight, I see now in BGG, the weight is 4.67 out of 5.
No way.
So I'm going to guess that the reason the weight is so high is because the strategy-wise is a complicated game. It's not complicated rules.
That's true. And it is. But, for example, Virgin Queen is a 4.4. And on Mars is a 4.67. And I think the reason is not because of strategy-wise, it's because of depth-wise, it's because of audience-wise. Yeah. People who are picking up Virgin Queen are the ones that have played Here I Stand and Path to Glory
100%,
and Path of Glory. Whereas people that pick up on Mars are maybe people that play Terraforming Mars. You know what
exactly,
I mean?
exactly.
They're not expecting it to be that.
I wanted to say, to do this comment before when you said that it's higher than Kanban. But this is the reason that probably is because it's a most popular theme.
Yeah, agree.
And the most popular game. Okay, excellent. On Mars.
Excellent. So that's On Mars by Vital Lacerda. And now we're no longer in space. We're going to be returning down to Earth. And where have we landed? In Greece, because it's time for the Ippokratic Corner. Ippokratic Corner.
I have a comment to make that I was thinking during this month, that it shouldn't be the Ippokratic Corner. It shouldn't be named the Ippokratic Corner anymore, because I feel that now it's a basic part of the structure of the podcast. So it might be the Ippokratic living room, maybe, or
so your problem is not the Ippokratic part; it's the corner.
The corner, yeah. It's not like it used to be a corner, like a small part, but now it's
we can't do that, Ippo. Because when I made our Board Game Geek Guild, check out link in our description. Please join our Board Game Geek Guild. When I put up our pictures as the host, I called you Ippo the Corner, no stop you. So that's it. I'm not redoing that image. So it's called the Ippokratic Corner.
Anyway, so welcome to the Ippokratic Corner / living room. And for this week's top 5, the topic is top 5 campaign games.
Man, I hated you for this one.
Yeah, I hated myself when I was thinking about these games.
I had the opposite problem. Like last time we did components, I had like 30. I'm not a campaign game guy. So like when I give you mine, it's going to be top 5 campaign games by a guy who doesn't play campaign games. I hope that's helpful.
It's helpful. It's honest. It's the best thing we can do, actually, not you can do, we can do, because I was thinking I would love campaign games, but they don't work. They do not work. Not in our group. Because
yeah, exactly. It depends on the group.
Yeah, because campaign games need consistency of players. Yes. And in our lives, it's very hard to accomplish that.
And smaller collections is what they
need. Maybe that too. And you need to convince people to play the same game basically again and again. I mean, it's basically, when we talk about a campaign game, it's basically the same game with some different, twists.
So what was your criteria for this one?
No criteria for this one. You can.
I had some. But not as many as, because again, I'm not for it to be a campaign game, some element of a previous game has to impact the next game. So that could be result, that could be continued story, that could be adjusted difficulty based on the result. So it wasn't necessarily like had to be called a campaign game, but some element of a previous game has to affect this game.
But since you added the adjusted difficulty, then even the scenarios in Space Alert
no, that was
makes
my
it
next
a
one. It cannot be a scenario-based game. So things like Mage Knight Renegade, like games where you're like, oh, I'm playing this scenario today. No, that's a scenario. That's not a campaign. All right. And this one I had to do, it has to be a board game, not a role-playing game. Because otherwise, Dungeons and Dragons, Savage World, Genesis.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Those are those are the best form of campaign game. So they would have been top of my list. So yeah, I also came up with the guesses of your top 5, Ippo. So I've written them down here.
I'm afraid you're gonna find all 5.
I'm not gonna guess them, but I will tell you if I got each one right or if I got wrong. I promise to be honest and not lie. But based on you saying scenario, I feel like I might have got some wrong. So except maybe one. I was sure you would try to shoehorn this one in. But anyway, we'll talk about
yeah, I think you can find all 5 of them. Anyway, I just wanted.
What's your honorable mention?
I don't have honorable mentions. In the end, maybe even now, I can mention the games that I considered for this top 5, and they didn't make it for the top 5 for different reasons.
No, do it in the end then, because then that will.
Yeah, let's do it in the end, so it will be more exciting.
I have one honorable mention, which would have made my list, but the expansion, the campaign part comes from an expansion. So if you buy the base game, there is no expansion to it. There is no campaign to it, and that's Too Many Bones.
Oh, that's legitimate for me.
Well, not for me. So I'm putting it as an honorable mention. Too Many Bones would be on my top 5 for sure. It would be number 3. But you need the Age of Tyranny expansion. Otherwise, it's scenario-based, not campaign-based.
Okay, so Age of Tyranny, is it in your top 5?
It'll be, well, Too Many Bones with Age of Tyranny wouldn't be my number 3. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
But it isn't. So it's my honorable mention.
So part of
number 5.
Part of my prologue that I would love campaign games is that I have 3 games right now standing in my bookshelf and I have not played them. And those are Pandemic Legacy Season 2, Sleeping Gods, and This War of Mine.
Oh, those are Sleeping Gods and This War of Mine are 2 of my guesses of your top 5.
This War of Mine I have played only once, so I cannot consider it of playing it. I love it. I would like to play it more.
I got 2 wrong so far.
Sleeping Gods, I didn't play it yet because my family betrayed me. They told me that if I buy it, they would play with me. Nobody cares anymore. And they don't listen to this podcast, so they will never know. Anyway, okay, so let's go through to my top 5. My number 5 is Dead of Winter.
I didn't have that one.
So this is the scenario-based game that
makes sense.
That has exactly 10 scenarios, and we were trying to get all of them. It's actually not in a sequence where number 10 is harder than number 1. I think number 8 was like the hardest. But I played it a lot of times with Lena as a 2-player co-op game. We had an excellent time. Each scenario was different. Of course, we're talking about the same game. I mean, it was different, but you just needed to accomplish a different goal. The rules were the same. but we loved the theme, we loved the gameplay. It was so nice visiting different locations in the game and searching of the deck of these locations. Each location has a different deck. Like in the pharmacy store, you can find more medicine. Basically, for the people that don't know the game, it's a game where zombies have attacked the earth, and you are trying to survive. And you are going out during the night. You go to the pharmacy store to find some medicine. You go to the grocery store to find food. You go to the police station to find some weapons and ammunition. So it's very thematic. It's great. I love it.
It's one of the worst games I've ever played.
It's my number 5. I convinced a friend of mine here. Duarte bought it, and I need to play it again.
I'm pretty sure if there's an expansion that makes it a campaign, by the way. I don't know because I don't spend any time thinking about this game, but that might be the case. All right. So again, please pay attention to mine as a top 5 campaign games for a person who doesn't play campaign games, because you guys, the next couple might be a little... All right. So my number 5 is a 2-player game. Small box game by Osprey Games called The Ravens of Trisahashri. Do you know this game, Ippo?
No. I have never heard of this game. Not only I don't know it. Okay.
So The Ravens of Trisahashri is a 2-player game. One player is playing Ren, and one player is playing... I can't remember their names. So one player is Ren, and Ren is a girl who's been through trauma, and her mind has been broken. And the other player plays, I think it's Fez or something. I can't remember his name. He is a psychic, and he is basically going into her mind to try to fix her mind, but to try to repair her mind so she can keep going. And in the game, basically, Ren knows what these cards are, which are like a poem that will help bring her back. And then the other guy, the psychic, is creating something called the Atman, which is like images overlaid on top of each other, which create these memories, recreate these memories. And then the Ren player, when a raven comes, it eats some of these memories, and it makes it harder for you to accomplish it. So you have to keep the ravens away while using these memories to reconstruct her memories in this poem of her heart to help cure her. And it's a beautiful game. And it is a unique game. And when you win the first time, which by the way took us like 6 tries, you open an envelope and it changes certain things in the game. And the next time you play it with these rules, and there's multiple envelopes in the game. So it does have a campaign mode built into it where by succeeding, you make the game more difficult, you make it change, and it's not the same thing over and over again. This is one of Dima and I's favorite 2-player games. I love it. It's a small game, fits in your pocket, and it's gorgeous. Trisahashri basically means the trillion universes. It's a concept in Buddhism. And it's just a lovely thing, and it challenges your brain in a different way because there's like a spatial reasoning part of it, but there's also like adding numbers to have the correct syllables to create this poem. But also there's like the part of keeping away the ravens and the thematic element of the ravens of Trisahashri, the ravens of the trillion universes, eating away at her memories. It's just so beautiful. And that's my number 5 campaign game, The Ravens of Trisahashri.
Excellent choice. As I see, like the art is classic anime, manga, whatever.
Yeah, I suppose you could call it that. Yeah,
and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
I can't. I wish I could remember his name. It's Ren, and it starts with an F. I remember that. Fez, something like that. But yeah, that's how the game works.
Okay, so now my number 4 is Holding On, The Troubled Life of Bill Kerr.
I forgot about that one. I should have put that on your list. Shit.
So this is a game as you say, unique game. It's a co-op game where all players were exercising palliative care to build care, who is a guy that is in his latest moments of his life, and he's not remembering many of his life. And every time we're offering the care to him, we're extracting some of his memories, and we get the puzzle of his life, basically. So as you play the game, you're trying to keep him alive, but at the same time, you unravel the history of his life. So the concept is amazing. I love the art. The gameplay is the weakest point of the game, I think. It's like a repetitive thing where there are certain things you can do. Each player, I think, every night is it's a different player every night is responsible for the care of the patient. But the story that comes out, it's very interesting, and I love the concept. I love the game, and I also liked very much the designer who we met in Essen in 2018.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. Very good choice. I forgot about it. It wouldn't have made my top 5, but it would have been top 10 somewhere.
So that's Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr.
That's a game that's a lot like the Ravens of Three-Zashri. So,
yes,
in the theme, right? You're reconstructing memories and they're becoming clearer. I do think the Ravens of Three-Zashri is the gameplay is a little more clever, which is why it's up there, but I completely think that's a great choice. And I didn't pick that one for you, but I forgot about it, but that would have made it on. I'm pretty sure I know your next 3 I got to get right. So we'll see. So my number 4 is another small game. It's a co-op campaign game called The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9.
Oh.
And it's a trick-taking game, co-op, with limited communication, but there's a campaign you can go through with harder and harder difficulties, different goals of what you have to accomplish. It's not much of a story. That's not what this wasn't best stories. It was best campaigns. And it is a game you could knock out in a couple nights. You could get through the whole campaign. And if you just have 2-3 people, you can go through the whole game, and it's very good. Even at 2 players, it's an excellent game. Although BGG does say it's not recommended at 2, I really enjoyed it at 2, and it's great at 3 and at 4. So it's a trick-taking game where every scenario has a different difficulty or a different winning goal, and you're trying to accomplish it based on cooperative trick playing. So you're playing tricks, someone's going to win the trick, but there has to be a certain order to whoever's winning the trick. So you have to communicate without verbally talking about it. There is a limited communication factor in the game where you can place a token on a card to communicate something like, this is the highest I have of this number, or this is the only card I have of this color, or whatever. Stuff like that. And I really, really enjoy playing it. And it is a campaign game, technically speaking. So The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9 is my number 4.
So I want to say I have played The Crew many times. It's an excellent game. It has this uniqueness of being a cooperative trick-taking game. I mean, I don't know any other cooperative trick. I don't think I know any other cooperative trick-taking game. It's excellent, but there's no theme at all.
0.
So this is why it didn't make it to my top 5.
Fair enough. But I did check on BGG, and under family, it says mechanism campaign games. So it's a campaign game.
No. I mean, it's like the mind also. It's a campaign game.
That's true. Kind of. Yeah. If that was the case, that would have been my number 1. Damn it. Why didn't I think of the mind?
So far, we have only picked cooperative games, which I guess
that's true.
It makes sense for
kind of the deal,
for campaign games.
Yes,
but the next one of mine, it's not a cooperative game, because my number 3 is The King's Dilemma.
I thought that wouldn't make it because you were kind of like tepid on it.
But
in your
still, it's
review.
really better than Dead of Winter or Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr, because as you said, we're not experts on this.
It's good thing you
we're-
picked that as our top 5.
We're not, yeah, I mean, yes, so our listeners need to know that since we don't really play a lot of these games, we have a limited capacity of
It was a very
suggesting-
strange choice you
suggesting
made.
game. Yeah, I mean, that's on me. I take it on me. But still, King's Dilemma, we explained it a lot in our last episode. It's great time with friends. It's not co-op. And I believe it's the only not co-op in my top 5. You were making choices. There's a story. All of the players are in the King's Council, and we're representing families, and we have different goals and objectives. And the fun about this is that you draw a card. There is a dilemma every time, and you need to make a choice, which probably you're making it according to your secret objective. So it's funny because you need to convince the other people to do absurd things like, it makes sense that we should sacrifice people in our kingdom. It's an old tradition of ours that it was forgotten for a long time, but I think the old ones, they knew what they were doing. So why not? So you're saying things like that. You cannot say it without smiling or without laughing, and it brings a lot of fun to the table.
Yeah, and to listen to more about it, check out our last episode where we talked about King's Dilemma in detail. And you got me excited to try it for sure. I'm kind of keen on the Queen's Dilemma.
Oh.
If I can get the right group for it that are interested in doing it, I might try the Queen's Dilemma
for sure.
Which is interesting because it means one of the 3 that I picked for you as your top 3 isn't there, and I think I know which one. And you might kick yourself when you realize you could have picked it. We'll keep going. My number 3 is also non-cooperative. And I played the whole campaign from beginning to end. And I had a great time. Cloud Age by Alexander Pfister and Arno Steinwender. So Alexander Pfister is the guy who did Mombasa. He did Great Western Trail, Isle of Skye. Great designer. We can all agree on that.
When did you play Cloud Age? I didn't know you played Cloud Age. We need to do an episode.
Dima and I played it during COVID. We played the whole campaign during COVID. Yeah. And I kept it because I like the game enough that I would love to play it with you guys when you come over for a game. It's not like Mombasa or Great Western Trail. It isn't that complicated. It's a game where the world is covered in this horrible dust, probably from pollution or lack of water or something. It's all in there. The story's in there. I forgot.
Dystopia.
Yeah.
You love
you
dystopias.
kind of you live in these like airships, like these dirigibles, and you're going from place to place. And there is a story that's happening where this guy has researched this thing, and this other company, these like raiders don't want you to do this. And it's a very cool story. I don't want to ruin the story for you. And it actually has an impact on how you play. Because when you're playing the game, every game you're like, okay, I start from here. I have to get to here. What's the route I'm going to take? I'm going to upgrade my airship, my speed, my weapons, my efficiency. I'm going to play cards into my tableau, which give me all sorts of different benefits. Like, it's a good tableau building game. And Dima and I we basically won like about half the games each. And like in the end, it came down to a tiebreaker at the end of the campaign to see who would win, which I did, by the way. But that wouldn't have affected whether I liked the campaign or not. I really enjoyed it. And as you play the campaign, more elements of the game get introduced to it. So you learn all the complexities of the game. It's really good. It's really cool. You come across, villains or like scenarios that you have to like go through combat, but combat is deterministic. You already know if you're going to win that combat or not. There is an element of risk taking that you can choose to do if you want to risk it, but you can always go into combat knowing you're going to win if you prepare enough for it. So it gives you the choice of whether or not to risk anything. You're managing energy, electricity, in your ship, you're managing power, you're managing elements, and you're managing your crew. And it's really fun. It's a really good game. I highly recommend it. It's a Euro game with a pick up and deliver element to it, a racing element to it, a tableau building element to it. And it's not very complicated. Even on BGG, it's a 2.8 out of 5. But it's a good design. And you can get through the campaign. It's 8 to 10. I can't remember how many games, because I think it's 8 games. You can get through the campaign, and it's really great. You're building a deck over time. You're managing resources, you're building an engine, and it looks great. And if you like apocalypse stuff and dirigible airship Zeppelin stuff as a theme, which I really do, it's really fun. I just think it's great. It has great table presence, and I've kept it because I can't wait to get it to the table with more players, even though Dima and I played through the entire campaign. And that's my number 3, Cloud Age by Alexander Pfister.
That's an excellent. I mean, I have. I don't know the game, but I have seen it many times. I have it in my want to play list.
When you come over, we'll play it.
Alexander Pfister.
I think that list has gotten too big at this point.
That's true.
The list of things we need to play when you come over.
So going to number 2. I don't think it will be a surprise that it's a legacy game, and probably the first legacy, actually not the first, maybe the second legacy game. Pandemic Legacy, Season 1.
I got one. Yeah!
So, I'm not sure if this is such a good game, or my experience with it was such amazing and shocking experience, because it was the first legacy game I have ever played in my life, and for most of the people it was in 2015. And I played it as a 2-player co-op again with Lena. It's a legacy game, which means that after every session you get new rules, new stickers on the board, cities are leaving the map, things are changing, new rules are coming. And everything was shocking and exciting, and it was so much fun playing this game. I will never forget the experience. If you have ever played Pandemic, you should definitely, if you like Pandemic, you should definitely play Pandemic Legacy. Yeah. Again, the problem is that you need the same group of players to play the game for at least 12 sessions. I think we played like 18 sessions with Lena. And this is a recurring theme here, that the games like Dead of Winter I have played with Lena, Pandemic Legacy with Lena, King's Dilemma, we couldn't finish it. So yeah, that's the problem. I cannot have a group of people, like 4 people, consistent. Yeah. But still, Pandemic Legacy, it's a suggestion. I think it's number 3 in the...
It's a good pick.
Top 100 of Board Game Geek. Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
I did play Pandemic Legacy with 4, but so the farther I get away from Pandemic Legacy, the better it raises in my head, right? Like when I had just finished it, I was like, or we had just finished playing the games, I was like, oh, this is like, for me, like a 4 out of 10, right? But as time has gone by, I've matched it with my rating for Pandemic, which is like a 6 out of 10. Because basically it's just Pandemic, right? I mean, you're going to play a lot of games, 12 games plus of Pandemic. And that's fine. The problem with it is the same problem Pandemic has, which is it is easily falling victim to a quarterback player. So a player that tells you what to do. The thing with Pandemic is when you're done with the game, you're done with the game. You don't have to keep playing. But with this one, you're stuck in a campaign and the guy's going to keep telling you what to do every game. And we had a quarterback player in our game, and that kind of took away from the experience from us. But
was that quarterback you?
It was Ricardo. And he knows this. But Byron and I both felt like he was quarterbacking a lot of the games. And like, it's fine for Pandemic because it's an hour long, 40 minutes long, and you're done. But when you're trying to play a campaign of 12 plus games, you don't want to keep going back to it, and you kind of get like, you dread playing it because you don't want to be, you want to make your own interesting decisions. That's the reason I don't like co-op games. And it was just like a repeat exercise in that, But I can see I respect the game a lot, and I've basically matched it, and maybe give it a little bit more credit than Pandemic itself, maybe like half a point more credit, because it is Pandemic Plus, right? So
Did you finish the campaign?
I think we got to like October or something, and
Yeah.
then we stopped. So yeah, but like we got like the big surprise and everything, so it's it's fine. I can respect it, is what I'm saying. And if you were enjoying it playing with Lena, you had to spend time with your wife. That's even cooler. So yeah, and I did get that one. So I'm one for. I got one of your 5.
It's a co-op. You always need the right group of people in order to enjoy it. Imagine also replaying the same with the same group of people that you don't match for a co-op game.
So my number 2 is kind of like it's valid, but I think you should have thought of it too.
Oh,
right. So my number 2 is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Jack the Ripper and West End Adventures. It qualifies in 2 ways. One, in that second version of the game, Jack the Ripper and West End Adventures, there is a literal campaign in the game that spans 4 missions, right? But other than that, all Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, you use the same world as you go forward. So you use like newspapers from previous cases are still valid in later cases because they're persistent and happened in your world. You can come across characters that you've come across in previous characters. Characters that you repeatedly go to will mention things that happen in previous cases. So you don't need the same group for it, but it does add some thematic edge to have that. And for the Jack the Ripper 4-case campaign, you should use the same group because it is one case that's been expanded over 4 cases. So Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, we talked a lot about it. It is the best deduction detective game there is. It is the best thematic game in terms of story writing and storytelling, and it is the most lived in world of any board game there is, because you can come across people that have nothing to do with the case that just exist in this universe. And it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. You have to like reading. It helps if you like drinking, because then you can sit on the couch and drink a lot and keep playing the game. But Jack the Ripper and West End Adventures, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, is my number 2 best campaign game ever.
Okay, Sherlock Holmes is one of my favorite games. So the reason that it's not in this list, it's a conscious decision not to be in this list, because I realized that I love escape room games and mystery games so much that I could make a top 5 out of them.
Fair enough.
So I was thinking that maybe we could make a different top 5 on them, but of course it's very legit to have it there.
Yeah, but most of those aren't.
And
campaign,
for me, if it
right?
was there, it would have been number 1. Okay.
Yeah, I know that.
So I don't know why it's number 2 in yours. That's very interesting now.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because the campaign element isn't as strong as my number 1.
Okay.
Like, as a game, it is a better game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Barely, by the way. My number 1 is an excellent game. But you know, as a campaign, I would have to say the other one's a better campaign. But yeah, it is to me a legitimate campaign game, and I recommend it. So
yeah, so it was in my other games considered list, like also Detective City of Angels, which is also an amazing game.
I thought of that one, but that one felt more scenario based.
Really, I thought that there was some links between its.
There are links, but like having that campaign in the Jack the Ripper and West End Adventures version kind of put it over the top. Right? It made it feel like, okay, that's a real campaign game. But yeah, Detective City of Angels also has the existing world where characters exist between cases, and by my criteria, that should have made it. And honestly, I kind of regret not putting it on there. It didn't make my short list. I just kind of removed it because I felt like I was really stretching the definition of a campaign between the two of them. So
okay, yeah. I just realized what is your number 1.
I know yours. Can I guess?
Yes.
Seventh Continent.
So my number 1 is Seventh Continent. Which of course it is. Actually, I played it as solo. there's a huge discussion between what's the difference between a solo game and a two-player game. Let's not stick to that. Let's stick to the thing that is a huge continent that waits for you to explore,
discover it. Yeah.
And it's the amount of cards in this game is like it's like a 4-5 kilos game made of cards that these cards are making the map of the seventh continent. So every time you are taking a decision to move from your square card, you are getting to a new location, and you draw a new card from the deck of like, I don't know, like 800 cards or something, that in the end they make the seventh continent. So the idea itself that I can go wherever I want to go, and this thing is huge, is really only comparable with video games, I think.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It was on my short list, and I think thematically there is no better campaign game, and I think that it was by far the game I was most excited for, that I backed on Kickstarter. Waited 2 years for it. But I was so excited for Seventh Continent. And I think as far as like exploring the continent, I don't think it disappointed. I think it was very good, but I don't want to criticize it. It's your number one, so go ahead.
No, I mean, you can criticize it. The other good thing about this game is that they have this excellent mechanism of accumulating resources and things that can be combined to make better tools that you can use in the game. I have seen the same mechanism, or maybe a basic prototype of this mechanism in Robinson Crusoe, which was the first, I think, and I also consider Robinson Crusoe for this top 5, which was also an excellent game where you can combine different tools and make new tools. So the game has like 5 different goals. They are called curses that you need to lift from yourself, and you need to search the seventh continent to find the cure for these curses. And it's again, it unravels a story as you explore the continent, and it's I think it's the only solo game that I have enjoyed so much. I don't remember any other. I'm not very much of a solo player.
So like thematically, I have no criticism. I guess the reason it's not on mine, because if I say it's that good, why isn't it? The gameplay for me was not it. Like, I didn't like how much you had to spend time going through the stacks of cards looking for cards. I didn't like the weird star system to see if you accomplished challenges, and I didn't like that your life was. Yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I am. I didn't like the your life is your like. The life, your deck being your life thing, your stamina. There's another game that does that a lot better, I think. But
what game?
Like, we'll see. It's my number one. So, so when you look at it, it just feels like I wish, like, I've had the craving recently to buy Seventh Continent again, and I'm like, but you don't enjoy the gameplay. It's like I enjoy unraveling the map and exploring, but I don't enjoy the gameplay. So, that's my fundamental. And I got some good stuff. I traded it for some 2 really good games. I got Antiquity and Time of Crisis for it.
Yeah, excellent trade.
Yeah.
So I can tell you what I don't like in Seventh Continent. I played it twice, and actually the third time I finished the game. The problem is when I played it when I died the second time, I realized that in order to start from the beginning, I need like 8 hours.
Oh my God.
To reach the same place or something like that. So
it's like the problem we had with time
Yeah,
stories,
time stories,
but
yes.
like exponentially larger.
Yes, of course. The other great thing about this game is, as you like cartography, you're actually applying cartography as you're playing.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So I love that. I mean, I have printed the Excel sheets with squares where I was writing what is in its location. So every time you might need to go to the same place, but you are doing it more efficiently. But yes, the third time, I mean, I finished the curses and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna play the game. And I have the expansion, and I have not opened it. I'm scared of the volume of new information coming from this.
I cannot critique it. Like, despite my criticism, it's still something that occasionally attracts my eye still, even though I played it a bunch of times. And so great number one. Well done. Mine, I think you said it under your breath at some point. It's actually the same game in two different forms. Can't really split them. Gloomhaven / Frosthaven. I don't even know if I need to say anymore.
No,
it's the best.
You need to pick one, though.
No, I don't. They're the same game, the same mechanism. Okay, Frosthaven.
I made you say it.
Because you know why? Because it's Gloomhaven in the snow,
which is better.
But basically, you all know how to play Frost. I talked about it for ages. I'm not going to do it again, but it has an incredible campaign with a storybook and a scenario book. And there are persistent things that happen along the entire thing. You follow multiple storylines. There are side quests, Is it a bear to deal with? Yes, it is. That's a negative. And if it wasn't so fiddly, it would be my favorite game ever. Like, that's the negative against it, right? But the combat system is a lot of fun. It's deterministic. You should understand how things work, so you kind of know what's happening, but there's a slight element of luck in the game. And overall, I really love the game. I love that the world continues to exist. I love that your characters retire. And when they retire, huge things happen and you have these goals that you want to work towards. And I love that you take on a new character who's existing in this world, which has a town record of the accomplishments of your last character, And it's the ultimate, not penultimate. It's the ultimate campaign game. And even if someone has played a bunch of campaigns, I think they would also recommend Gloomhaven and Frosthaven. But even someone who hasn't loves Gloomhaven and Frosthaven. It's fiddly as all get out. It has some weird choices in design, but it is phenomenal. It is beautiful. And even though it's fantasy, it isn't predictable generic fantasy. The races are unique. The world is unique. The villains are unique. And I just really love and appreciate it, and I'm glad that I've got to play both, and I'm grateful to it for existing. Gloomhaven Frosthaven is the best campaign game ever made.
Even if it is a bear, it's a bear in the snow. So
that's right. But you're always better than bears that are not in the snow.
Yeah. So if you're not Leonardo DiCaprio, you're okay with that.
Yeah. So my predictions for your top 5 were Pandemic Legacy, Season 1, Seventh Continent, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Sleeping Gods, This War of Mine. That's what I guessed for you.
This top 5 is actually better than mine. What you said. It's probably, I have not played Sleeping Gods, but it's probably a better top 5 than mine.
If we could include scenario games, my number 1 would have been Mage Knight.
Wow.
And then, yeah. And I'd have also put Renegade in there. I really like Renegade. Unless we could also include D&D, then that might have been number 1. I don't know. The point is, it doesn't include those. So that's my top 5.
We cannot include D&D. Then it becomes a different monster.
Yeah, I'll be like number 1 D&D, number 2 Savage Worlds.
So I want to mention the other games I considered for this top 5, which was Time Stories, which is a bad game. So when I say considered, I mean I considered that was a campaign game. That's really a campaign game. Yeah, I don't play it.
I agree with you.
Oath. But also you can actually have different players in every
Yeah, you mentioned.
scenario, and you can play it like once a year and nobody cares that they don't remember what happened before. But in theory, it is a campaign. Space Alert, but you said it's not because it's scenario.
It's scenario based, right?
And the basic difference is only the difficulty between the scenarios. Then the crime games, Detective Modern Crime, Sherlock Holmes, A Consulting Detective, Chronicles of Crime is also a great game for me. Detective City of Angels, amazing.
My favorite of that group, for sure.
Robinson Crusoe, I thought about
Robinson Crusoe, but again, scenario.
And I prefer the Seventh Continent. I consider the Mind and the Crew as... but again,
I don't know how you can consider the Mind, though. The Mind, you're playing levels, but that's all one game, right? You're not taking that information and moving into the next game. So it's not really.
What in the Crew? In the Crew, what's the difference?
The Crew, like, you can just play scenario 1, 2, and 3 and then stop. That's 3 games. And then tomorrow you can play 4 or 5. You know what I mean? Like, it's not...
So it's scenarios where Mind is a campaign, because...
No, the Mind is levels. So in the Mind, you've reached level 8 and then you stop. You can't play till level 4 today and then continue. You would be playing the same game over 2 days.
It's only difficulty difference, yes. So it's a level.
Yeah.
I consider Gloomhaven, but I only played it once. So the same reason that I was not considering this War of Mine. Mansions of Madness and Eldritch Horror.
Eldritch Horror is not a campaign game. Come on.
What do you mean?
It's not in any way a campaign game. You cannot play it over multiple sessions.
No, we did. I played it like 15 times with, not 15, maybe 10, 12 with Lena.
Yeah, but every time it was a different game.
It's a different scenario.
Are you talking about Eldritch Horror or Mansions of Madness?
Eldritch Horror.
No, Eldritch Horror is not scenarios. Eldritch Horror is a different villain. Like, you're playing a different bad guy, but it's the same game. You play the same characters. You can switch them around. I can be Lily Cheng this time. You can be Lily Cheng next time. Like, how is that a campaign?
I don't remember that. I don't remember it like that. I mean, I have played the game like 10 years ago. I remember we were playing it like we were having fun. I was playing it again with Lena. We were having fun. And when we finished, we said, okay, that was a bad game. But we really
I have some amazing memories in Eldritch Horror. But when you finish, you're 100% sure that you played a terrible game.
Yeah, it's like watching reality TV.
It's like Nemesis, really, right?
No, Nemesis is really better. I really. What do you think? Comparing Nemesis with Battlestar Galactica.
I like BSG more, but I think BSG, it has more of the Avalon thing happening, right? Like,
but we know the story of Battlestar Galactica, so maybe that affects also.
Yeah, maybe. I do love Battlestar Galactica, but I don't think that's the reason. I don't know. Maybe we should try Unfathomable, which is the new Cthulhu version of it, and see if we like it just as much.
No way.
Nope, not happening either. Okay, cool. Just thought I'd throw it out there as a potential.
Okay, so this was our top 5s. We're sure you're gonna appreciate our effort. We sweat on them. Please don't forget to let us know what your top 5 campaign games are over at our Board Game Geek Guild. And you can find the link to that in our episode description. I'm not gonna say.
Well, I'm gonna keep those 2 words there until you say it one episode.
I'm not gonna say you morons again. It was fun. It's fun if you do it once, then it's insulting.
Yeah, it was funny in the moment. Yeah, but me threatening you with it so one day you accidentally say it is terrific. We hope that day will come in the next 50 episodes. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of this tabletop session. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Tabletop Sessions. Join the conversation. Share a fun story of board game shenaniganism. Let us know what your top 5 was this month over at our Board Game Geek Guild. And you can find the link to all of these in the episode description. We also started a YouTube channel where you can listen to the podcasts and you can watch some gaming sessions. So far, there's only solo stuff on there, but I am planning on setting up some sort of Tabletop Sessions does tabletop simulator thing soon. We'll be back in a month. And until then, to quote one of my favorite writers, God damn it, you've got to be kind. Say bye, Ippo.
Bye, guys.
That's it.
Tabletop,
That's
2
it.
hours.
tabletop,
They just get to buy,
tabletop,
guys, after they listen to us talk for 2 hours.
Bye, ladies and
Tabletop,
gentlemen.
tabletop,
We're really
tabletop,
appreciating staying so long.
tabletop.
We hope you enjoyed it as much as